quedarse con, quedarse con. Quedarse con. What does this mean? Do you know the meaning of quedarse con? Quedarse, it's similar to a phrasal verb. Quedarse con, so we have a verb, of course. We have the verb here, quedar. Okay, quedar, that's the verb. And also we have se as part of the verb, which means you can use reflexive pronouns with this verb using this phrasal verb, quedarse, quedarse. So remember that. I have a lesson about reflexive pronouns. So if you want to learn more about them, you can browse my channel and it's one of the latest lessons. So yeah, I highly recommend you watching that if you don't know how to use reflexive pronouns. So quedarse con. Con is just part of the phrase, of course. Con means with or essentially just with, okay? Con él, with him. Con ella, with her, okay? So con means with. Quedarse has quite a few meanings. The verb itself, quedar, has some meanings, and the most common meaning is to, it has a few meanings, but quedar, it means to remain. Okay, it's one of the most basic meanings of quedar. It depends on the situation, of course, but it could mean to remain, or if you are going to meet with someone, so it's similar to saying to meet, or to suit, if we're talking about clothes or appearance, and also it means to agree on something, if you're making plans or decisions. So quedar can mean a few things, but we're talking about the phrasal verb or the phrase quedarse con. Quedarse con means to keep. I'll show you the meaning, by the way. I need to show you the meaning. The meaning is to keep. When you keep or retain something, okay? So it's often used when someone decides to take or keep something for themselves. So that is the meaning of this phrase. If you're keeping some books or keeping something in general, anything for yourself, you can use this verb in that specific situation. Okay, so let me show you some examples using quedarse con. The first example is me quedé con el cambio. Me quedé con el cambio. So this is a very easy sentence. Me quedé con. So the first part is the actual phrase we're learning, and then we just added el cambio. Okay, so this means I kept the change. So I don't know, there's situations where you keep the change for any reason. So I guess that can happen. Of course it can happen. Or you can say to someone, keep the change, quédate con el cambio. So this is a common and easy sentence in Spanish. So let's break it down. Let's see how this sentence works. Me is a reflexive pronoun. Then it can mean me or I. In this situation means I, okay? Quedé, that's the verb conjugated, okay? For the personal pronoun yo. Technically, you can say yo me quedé, but we don't need personal pronouns all the time. I always say this, but we do need reflexive pronouns a lot. So, me quedé means I kept Okay, and then we need to add con because it's part of the phrasal verb or the phrase. Me quedé con, me quedé con. We don't have it in English, of course. That's fine. I mean, both Spanish and English are different languages, so they work different. They have differences. So we can see it here. Me quedé con means I kept. And then el means the, okay? El cambio. Cambio means change. It can mean change as in something changing, okay? Or it also refers, if it's, a noun, it means change as in just money, okay? Do you have any change? Tienes cambio, okay? So it's interesting that cambio can be used in that situation. So once again, we have the reflexive pronoun, which is right here, right? That's the indication. So we're using a reflexive pronoun. And then we have the conjugated verb quedé, present tense, past tense, and it's conjugated for the personal pronoun yo, I, yo me quedé, okay? And then we just added con right here, con, and then the noun, el cambio. I kept the change, me quedé con el cambio. So that was easy. That was easy, wasn't it? It was easy. So let's look at another example. Oh, by the way, if you want to say quédate con el cambio, you can say that, of course. Oh, sorry. Let me show you. Let me show you here. Quédate con el cambio. Keep the change. That's a very common thing to say in English and in Spanish. Quédate con el cambio. Quédate con el cambio. And this means keep the change. Okay? Keep the change. There you go. Keep the change. Just, it's okay. You don't have to give me anything, right? This is used if you can say this to a waitress, a waiter, if you're like, oh, just keep the change. So that's great. Quédate con el cambio. And we can see that queda, this is the verb conjugated, and then we added te, which is the reflexive pronouns, because reflexive pronouns can go before the verb or as part of the verb. So when you place reflexive pronouns after the verb, they gotta be a word, one word. So you attach the reflexive pronoun after the verb, or to the verb rather, and then we just do we add con, which we have it here. This one doesn't change at all, and then we add el cambio, okay, in this situation, the change. This obviously can change to anything else. Quédate con el libro, for example. Quédate con el libro. And this means keep the book. Okay, so you can change. It's very flexible. You can change this noun to any other noun that you want. And it's very easy, very easy. Quédate con. Okay, so let's look at another example using this phrase. ¿Quieres este libro? So someone might ask this. ¿Quieres este libro? And the other person can say, puedes quedarte con él. Or it could be the same person saying the same thing. The question asking and just saying the next phrase or the sentence below. ¿Quieres este libro? Puedes quedarte con él. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means do you want this book? Or similar to saying, would you like this book? But technically, the literal translation is, do you want this book? Okay? You can keep it. You can keep it. You can keep it. ¿Quieres este libro? Puedes quedarte con él. Do you want this book? You can keep it. So that's easy, 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 easy. So let's see how this works. This works, the whole thing. Let's just break it down. And quieres, tú quieres. We are not using the pronoun tú, the personal pronoun tú, which means you, right? In questions, when talking about questions, usually you don't use personal pronouns. You just add the conjugated verb, okay? Especially when talking about wanting something or when you want to say want in the question. So quieres means do you want? Okay, so that's interesting. You don't have to say tú quieres este libro. No. You just say quieres, quieres. Do you want? Quieres. You can say quieres café? Do you want coffee? ¿Quieres dinero? Do you want money? ¿Quieres dormir? Do you want to sleep? Okay, so quieres can be used with verbs and nouns, of course. So it depends on the situation. Right now we're using a noun. We're using the noun libro. Libro means book. El libro, book or the book. And we have este. Este means this. And este can be masculine and feminine, also plural. So este is masculine, esta is feminine. If you add an a or a, esta. But in this situation, it doesn't work because libro is masculine. You always need to pay attention to the grammatical gender of nouns, okay? So libro is masculine, so esta doesn't work, but that's feminine. Esta casa, this house. Este libro, this book, okay? And also plural, if you're saying books, you can say estos libros, these books, okay? These books. But the feminine version is estas, feminine and plural. Estas casas, for example. These houses, okay? So always pay attention to the noun, okay? So in this situation, we're talking about one book. So we need este libro, this book, okay? So after that, we have puedes, tú puedes. We're not using the personal pronoun to as well, because in Spanish we don't use them often unless you want to be very specific. For example, él, he, she, ella, right? Él, ella. Sometimes you have to be specific because you can say él canta, he is singing or he sings. But if you say canta, it could be él, it could be ella, right? So you have to specify in those situations. But usually you don't need personal pronouns. So just you need the conjugated verb. Puedes means you can. Okay? Puedes. Quedarte. And we have what we're learning right now, this phrase right here. Quedarte con. And in this situation, it means only keep. Okay? And then el, we're saying el because libro is masculine. Okay? So that's why we have this el, even though el can also mean he. It can also mean a masculine noun if you want to replace it. Okay, if you don't want to say libro again here. So él is similar in this situation. It's similar to eat. Okay, él because libro is masculine. So let's see the phrase we're learning. It's right here. Quedar. Quedar. We have the verb, right? Quedar. And then we attached the reflexive noun te, quedarte. And we have con, which never change. It doesn't need to change at all. Con, and then we have it, el, right? So quedarte, tú quedarte, okay? Tú, we don't need to. Tú puedes quedarte con él. You can say that, but we don't need that. But it's interesting that we're using te, right? It means you. Quedarte, you. Quedar, keep. Con, we don't have it in English. And then él, well, él is it. Puedes is can. Okay? So you can keep the book. So it's quite interesting. Te is a reflexive pronoun. It can mean you. It can mean yourself in some situations. So it's quite interesting. So remember that. Te. For example, when you say te quiero, I love you, is essentially you're saying yo te quiero, right? But we don't need yo. So you just say te quiero, and that means I love you. Te means you in that situation. So yeah, it's interesting, all the reflexive pronouns and how they can work, as direct object pronouns, indirect object pronoun. But it's interesting. And obviously, well, it can be also a reflexive pronoun. It can get complicated for sure. But remember, quedarse con means to keep. Essentially, you're just saying you're keeping something for yourself. And that's the meaning of this phrase. It's very common and it can be complicated, but now that you learned it and I showed you how to use it, I think it's easier now, right? It's easier. So do you guys have any questions?